It's 11 o'clock on Monday. We're here at the Neutral Zone. Thank you for joining us. Aloha.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. But what puzzling you is the nature of my game.
Wow, I like that singer. I'm laughing. Brian knows. Good morning, everyone. This is the Neutral Zone at 88.5 FM KAKU. I'm Jason Schwartz, your host, and I have a wonderful guest, Brian Murphy. Brian is a friend of mine, but that's not the reason he's here. He's here for a special reason. We were laughing because that opening song, it isn't Mick Jagger there. That's me singing. I was at Maui Community College, and they wanted to have a singer, and they had me sing that song. And you were just saying, I'm more like Tony Bennett, Sinatra.
Right. But it was good. I admit, it was good.
I could do rock stuff. I'm going to do country here. We got music things coming up. Mm-hmm. Brian is a friend for a long time, and the way we became friends, Brian ran a dispensary in Paia.
Correct.
Called Patients Without Time. Some of you know that name, some of you don't. Patients Without Time was a dispensary that dispensed medical, I guess you call it wasn't medical, it was marijuana.
Basically, back then it was called medical marijuana.
Was it called medical then too?
No, it's just called marijuana. But you had to have your 329 card to qualify at the time.
So Brian is a pioneer. Brian is someone who knows about marijuana and hemp and CBD and all the things going on before it was fashionable. I like to say, like when I was doing solar, and now everybody thinks they're experts, but they forgot. This has been a long look at this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I run into the most. I actually been in the industry for over 30 years now. 20 years of it was with an organization called Normal out of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And then we actually created a group out on the West Coast. It was called BAC, the Business Alliance for Commerce and Hemp, and that was in 1989. And I've been pushing these two subjects, both the medical and industrial use, for going on 30 years now, because when you look at the facts, there is no reason any of these things should be as regulated as they are or controlled as they are, especially when it comes to the hemp one. For the state of Hawaii, I'm really looking forward to when they realize what industrial hemp is. Currently, everybody's delusion and in an illusion about this thing called CBD being the savior of everything. And majority of that is hype.
What is CBD?
Well, basically, there's 108 different cannabinoids in the actual marijuana plant, and it's one of the many cannabinoids in there. You have
cannabinoids. I'm just trying to give some of these guys know it, but so in other words, there's different things that hold.
There's different aspects of the different cannabinoids. You have CBN, CBD, and CBG, let's say.
Okay.
Now, the next big craze you're going to hear about will be the CBG. They basically call that fountain of youth cannabinoid because as research has been going on here, CBG is the one that activates the body to produce more neurons. One of the issues of as we get older, and I'm getting there now, the fact our body starts to slow down on this neuron production thing. What they found in studies in both Israel and Spain, where they predominantly give seniors, anyone over 55, cannabinoid therapy pretty much immediately, is that they actually regenerate some of the things that have actually slowed down in their system. And basically, the whole cannabinoid thing is each one balances the other. There's this thing called the endocannabinoid system. And in our body, we have receptors for these, and I think they have located 2 so far, that when you consume the cannabis, it activates these receptors to do certain things in your body. And as science has finally come to realization, we actually, our homeostasis, or our balance in us as a human being, is regulated by our cannabinoid system, which is rather interesting. That's built in internally.
So, to play this quick, let's play back a little bit. Here we are. It was the 1930s, or should I say 1920s, when drinking was on and off, and then that came back on, and their industry was beginning to build. And I always remember, I don't know why 1937, someone said that there was a release of this little
well, what happened was it actually started a little earlier than that. You really want to trace this back, you have to go back to the petrochemical industry's birth, which was by a group of people who were based with this guy named Rockefeller.
I've heard that name.
Rockefeller discovered early on, that he was...
Our new listeners might not know.
Yes,
Check him out.
In my book, he was a very evil person, and what he did was all for self-promotion. And one of the things early on they discovered, he was the oil baron of the world, is that they could make organic oil-based substances exactly the same as the natural plant substances, but be able to isolate it down, and this way they were able to create patented medicines. Before that, all the medicines were not patentable because, how are you going to patent a bush or a tree or a plant or whatever?
Sure.
But what they discovered was a way to isolate out the different alkalines of the plant and actually reintroduce it through a petrochemical type of approach. And basically they were the birth of the whole pharmaceutical industry, was through this research done by the Rockefeller Foundation at the time. Once they figured it out, then they created a big campaign in the early 30s to re-educate everybody that their medicine approach was the only medicine approach. And before that, everything was based on natural plants and the natural flow of things. And at that point is when we switched over, or the pull started for the synthesizing or the synthetic creation of products. Basically, that's when they first invented plastic too. Baccarat, I can't remember the name of the thing, back in the early 30s. And as usual, the greed of people overtook everything.
Step back a little bit. You're just making it pop. Back away a little bit.
Pop.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. It's just go over it instead of at it. That's all.
I gotcha.
That's all.
But
so here we go. There was the early 30s. The plastics industry started. The idea that synthetic could replace natural was right there at that.
Right.
junction.
We were at the junction of a very balanced natural process for everything, to where they started to synthesize and create their own versions of things that, as we found out over time, all of them turned out to not be a good thing, as in it could have been done better. When it came to the drug issue, they actually took over the whole medical industry, created the Rockefeller Foundation, where they were taking over all the hospitals and all the medical institutions that were teaching people, and basically creating fictitious stories, as we see with the cannabis. It was a small group. It was Rockefeller, the Mellons, Ashling. I mean, there's a whole small group of array in there that all had financial interest in it. Like at the time, you had the Reefer Madness. They were trying to get everybody to use their regulated, formulated drugs, and they didn't want any natural drugs. So they pushed the button of fear and prejudice.
That was that little thing I saw, the Reefer Madness, that musicians drinking, having a little bit of puff of this, and they go crazy. And
I know, I looked for that bud for years. I never could find it. I've been looking, it's just not out there.
Oh.
But no, they basically dramatize, and like they're doing today, our government lies to us constantly and manipulates us on things they know they can manipulate us on, and health and fear are the two big buttons they like to push.
And somehow a lot of people have that's many years ago. That's generations that believe that marijuana, I say, now we have a more accepting world, it seems. The people that are out here in the world say, why are we regulating that? And so it's
Well,
Change is happening.
I think the change is happening is just by awareness and people educating themselves. Basically, my 2 cents would be not to believe anything they say and investigate it yourself, because I guarantee you they're lying for somebody's financial gain. Because the only reason they're pushing something if they're pushing it. And when it came to the whole plant thing, especially with cannabis, early on, it was not a good one to separate. When you look at the early papers, it was actually a guy at the University of Illinois in the 1940s. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He actually was the first one to isolate the CBD, which is the most popular one now. Right. The interesting thing, though, is when you look back on the research at the University of Illinois, one of the problems they found when you totally isolated the CBD and give it to people in that purest of forms in large quantities, it'll actually shut down your immune system totally. So it has a lot of negative effects that early on the pharmaceutical industry saw this and they couldn't run with pod. It's basically a oil-based but non-water soluble. Created a lot of problems for them. They couldn't patent it. So if you can't patent it, victimize it, villainize it, and make everybody afraid of it, because they knew it did work, but they really didn't want it as part of the competition. So there was a couple big forces going on. You had the big paper barons who wanted to keep chopping down the trees on the West Coast that they had the hundreds of thousands of acres for, and they could not have all these little farmers, or I forget what they called them, plow guys of some sort, in the Wisconsin and all these places producing a reusable, recyclable type of product like hemp. So immediately the reefer banned this thing was, and they totally banned hemp at the same time, which was phenomenal when you look at, I'm a little funny guy, as in one of my favorite things was in DC was to go to the Library of Congress and just read all the old reports. You know, what did they actually say in 1935 in the da-da-da, and I look it up. And the big outcry, half the people, medical and industrial, had no idea what this marijuana thing was they were talking about, until all of a sudden they found out they could no longer grow hemp. They could no longer use it in any shape or form because of this drug thing. But again, it's back to they created an illusion of delusion and pushed everybody's fear button that, you know what? When people smoke that stuff, African Americans have relations with white women. Man, you know, push the fear button, push the scare button, push the prejudice button. But that's how America works, and it really saddens me that most people haven't figured it out. But I think what's going on now, especially the new generations and with the internet, facts talk and bullshit walk. You can look stuff up now. So when these people make these off-the-wall claims, stop and look them up, and you won't be surprised at how often they're just lying to you and making shit up for their own benefit.
Right. By the way, those words, those are French.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm from we had a discussion at the house. If you're from the East Coast, it's sort of funny. We have a different verbiage. And some things are just verbiage.
No, I understand. But I'm just... if the FCC is watching, excuse us. We're back.
Right. Okay.
Let me go beep a couple times. Beep.
There you go.
When I listen to you, you know, and you put out facts, and you've been doing this and educating people a long time, this has not been a cakewalk for you. You've gone through an extreme, what do they say? You've been put into the fire and have been accused of things from soup to nuts.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, is the way I say it. Part of my Patience Without Time, as anyone remembers, I actually got arrested. The court case was rather interesting, how we were not allowed to bring up medical marijuana in our defense in any shape or form. And
that's odd.
Yes, well, you can't win then. But in the end, it took us 5 years, lots of money to get to the point where it was in the December early, I had the opportunity to plead no contest. What that means, I would not plead guilty. And what the county of Maui had offered me was that if I pleaded no contest today, that they would guarantee me I would get no more than 1 year in jail. Now you got to remember, technically I was facing 250 years in jail. So there's a balancing act one has to look at. And at that point, I decided that, okay, bite the bullet and go ahead and just plead no contest and end this matter and hally on with my life. Immediately, I got sentenced to 1 year, the max that they said they would do, and I was actually taken to jail right then and there, boom, over to MCCC. Now, with all the action going on MCCC, let me update a lot of you people how that place
That's
actually...
Maui Correctional Facility,
Right,
for
right.
those that don't know the lingo.
Right. We actually called it winter camp. When Mary would come to visit me, she was coming to winter camp to visit Brian. I have never been in a situation where I met so inept an organization running anything in my life as when I was in Maui County Correctional Center.
Oh, yeah.
The first day I get walking in there and you get this big fat guy cursing you out, calling you all kinds of weird shit, which I can't say because of his radio restrictions here.
Yeah.
But the verbiage was quite intense and intimidating. So again, I'm a little freaked out. Then they throw me into my first cell. So here I'm in a cell with 6 people with 2 bunks.
What?
4 people back then was sleeping on the floor, 2 sleeping in a bunk in what they call the pods. And
Isn't that like totally out of regulation?
yeah, and they lost that too. The ACLU did win on that, and I think they've scaled it down to 4 now in a 2-man belt. Again, it's just totally, utterly overcrowded and totally incompetent, most of the guards. Now, I like to step back a second, though. No, I met a very small percentage. Maybe 25% of the guards there were really there for a job, doing a job, and doing it correctly. The other 75%, most of them probably would have ended up in jail if they stayed out too long. And it really made it interesting. So I'm in my little pod place, and then I get moved over to the dorms after being there a week, which is now you got bunk beds in this, and this is like New Year's Eve, and getting all settled in, and all of a sudden, boom, Murphy out. Boom, they throw me in solitary. Now, what did I do?
Solitary?
Oh, yeah. Solitary confinement all by yourself in a really weird part of the jail. And I was there for like 3 days. They let me out and brought me back to the dorm. I said, what did I do? So New Year's Eve, there were 4 people at the gate with a drum, beating their drum saying, "Free Brian," which ended up creating danger for the facility. So I had to be thrown into the hole.
What kind of a thing is that?
Oh, it's just trippy. I mean, the way the really world works. But anyway.
Wow. I have never been in jail, so I don't know the experience, but I have seen people that have had very bad stories. I've never heard one good story.
I think the worst part is the majority of just local born and raised people in jail versus not. And it was noticeable how it's a really high population in there. And
Of local.
Hey, what are you in here for, Bob? Oh, man, I got 4 tickets. I couldn't pay my insurance. All what I would call Menini type of stuff, all based on the fact that they're being economically genocided off this island, but yet you're going to keep throwing them in jail because they can't pay their car payments, they can't pay their taxes, they can't pay their, car taxes or something. But
Usually somehow, in other words, related to then the life that goes with that and the whole atmosphere. I mean...
But then was the flip side of people forget we had mandatory minimums. I met so many guys in jail, got caught with a gram of coke 8 years ago, was on his way out, in jail for 10 years for having a little meth or this.
Wow.
But the sentencing is so severe and it totally ruins the people's lives. As in,
Is there any kind of rehabilitation thing do you see going on?
no, that was the other sad part of the jail. There's actually 0 activities at MCC for any of the actual inmates.
No job placement, no
Oh, well, they do
assistance?
have some jobs. You can get 25 cents an hour to
No,
work.
not there. In other words,
Very few.
why do you go to college? One goes to college to get skills to somehow put them back either in the workplace or in your own life to enrich your life.
Right.
So that here you have people that are there because they didn't do something that someone liked. So do they do anything to show them an alternative?
No, that's the sad part of it is here, these
don't.
people actually need support and need help. And
Yeah.
they get 0 there from anybody in the facility. That's not part of their program. They're not there for rehabilitation. They're there to keep them locked up. End of conversation.
I think this could be another show. So, anyone out there wants to talk about it, it would be a good subject I'd like to get into. Maybe we can get people, I want to say from both sides. There are no sides. We should all be doing what's right.
Right.
So
that I agree with you there. And as we're leaving the jail part of it, which is interesting, is In the state of Hawaii, you are banned from participating in the medical marijuana industry, and you're banned from participating in the hemp industry if you were ever arrested for a felony. Banned for life. You're not allowed to participate in their program. And it just shows the...
You mean as a client, even as a patient?
Oh, no, they have to let me in as a patient. I've really pushed that.
But if you want to be in the business and you have the knowledge to be able to do that.
Right. That's the interesting part is here we have all these people who are basically being genocide off the island because there's no economic ring for them to grab on to hold them here to the island. And we have this multi-billion-dollar industry that they're banned from participating in. And when you look at like Maui Therapy Grown, these are all out-of-state owners who are profiting and taking our money away, which I find fascinating that the whole thing is for big business and big business only. The other day we went to the Maui Grown, whatever they are.
The one in Wailuku Industrial.
We bought a couple grams for $48. That's right, $24 a gram for the state-approved medical distributing there, which actually comes out to $680 an ounce, which I find fascinating. The local black market's $200 an ounce, so it's a really weird discrepancy going on right now. Is
black market has a kind of, from not that source, in other words.
Right. Well, technically, black market, I consider anybody not on the tax bill.
Okay.
If you're not on the tax bill, you're considered the black market.
So you're saying that marijuana in the black market is less than a third?
Right. So again, that's the interesting phenomenon. And not only that, here on the Big Island dispensary just opened up a couple weeks ago. And over there, that dispensary can sell their cannabis for $2.25 per ounce, which is a reasonable price. I think most patients could work with that. Why does Maui have to get $680 a price? If you ask them, they start rambling at you about the cost. They ramble about the testing, and they ramble about this. Same things the guy in the Big Island did, but they don't have to come off and rip off the patients as much as they do here on Maui.
Wow, that is a shocker.
Right. Yeah, it's
$650 an ounce.
$680.
While yet a neighbor island is $225.
Well, mine the biggest.
What the heck is going on there?
Well, you're going to love this. There's a bill in the hopper, HB 290, which would allow inter-island transportation of a patient with their medicine. As in, I'm allowed to have 4 ounces as a patient, and if this bill passes, I'll be able to travel inter-island and bring my medicine with me. It's going to create a great business for the airlines if they have a low enough fare. You'll be able to fly over from here to the Big Island and save, let me say 200 times 4 is 8, 6 times 4 is 8. You're save about $1,600, so the airfare won't be that big. So local patients on Maui, once HB 290 passes, you'll be able to fly inter-island with your cannabis. Think about going to the Big Island to purchase it. It'd be cheaper than buying it here on Maui.
Isn't that the craziest thing? And I know, I want to say hundreds, I probably mean thousands of people that ingested marijuana, smoked marijuana, all kinds of stuff. And I have never, for those that don't and somehow have not seen that up close, it is really so undangerous. I can't imagine still why the police and everyone, they all know, and even when someone is confronted, you hear stories, the police know it's on the way, and they treat it, I don't want to, get policemen in trouble, but some of them recognize the direction of things.
Well, I think it was funny. It was back in the 80s. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. We're doing a pot rally at the park, and the police come. People were smoking pot, and they arrested 2 and told the rest to wait. They'd be back. They waited.
Really?
The people, it blew me away. What a different passive group it is now. If I was a cop and go to the park for the pot people, or go downtown and deal with the crackheads, hey, let me go, where are them pot guys at? They're easy to deal with. And unfortunately, though, the rules and regulations aren't based on fact or science. They're, again, specifically with the cannabis laws, are all based on prejudice and financial gain for small individuals. And that's who you're really pushing up against, I've discovered over all these years. And then the inconsistency in even what they say. And like currently we have another bill here on island or in the islands. It's SB 1253. It's a narcotic bill. It's hard to find when you go through the current bills on that, but look it up. And in there they have a section where any cannabidiol, CBD, will have to be FDA approved before its sale. If you go into any of these health food stores here on island, they got all these bogus products. When we sent them off to get tested, 90% did not have in them what they said they had in them, and did not have a list of what was really in there.
Wow.
I think it was like 2 out of 11 actually had what they said they'd have in there.
Well, we're going to come back here in a minute, and we're going to continue. I want to get to our sponsors. Well, that is shocking, Brian. We're going to talk more about that. We have to stop for the wonderful people that keep this radio station going. That could be you out there. If you feel you'd like to be helping us, we would love to have your help. We're going to jump over there, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. So hang on, Mr. Brian. Well, I'm here with Brian Murphy at KAKU and Neutral Zone. We'll be back in just a bit.
Final Cut Pro is a professional editing program used throughout the industry. At Akaku, you can learn the foundational features of this powerful app with pro editor Stephen Luxick. Once certified, access Akaku's Media Lab with fully customized iMacs to utilize your new editing skills. Our next training is May 13th to May 20th. To register, visit akaku.org or call 871-5554.
The Neutral Zone, with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to thank Maui Arts and Music Association, Treemakers Foundation of Maui, for their support. Since 1991, with hundreds of television shows and their MauiArtsandMusic.com website, they have championed self-sustainability on Maui. The Neutral Zone is heard live Mondays at 11 a.m. and replayed Saturday at 7 a.m. on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui.
Aloha Gutsy Women, Bree Wolf here with Sacred Plant Medicine Yoga and Life Coaching. I am thrilled to tell you about a new healing modality that's actually been around for thousands of years. I'm talking about the combination of cannabis and yoga. Did you know when you combine medical marijuana with yoga, it helps you hear and really feel your body, allowing your own innate healing to thrive? Log on to the WaileaHealingCenter.com for yoga class times or call 808-344-4788.
My name is Hunter Hayes. I know myself, and I know my buzzed warning signs. One shot is about knowing my limits, or not necessarily knowing my limits.
I start with one shot to have a good time.
One of the signs that I'm starting to feel a little buzzed is when I start solving not only my own problems, but the entire world's problems. When I know I'm going out, I know I'm going to start with calling for a ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
We are back. We're at the Neutral Zone, 88.5 FM, KAKU. You can find all of our shows, this one starting probably tomorrow, up at MauiNeutralZone.com. We have now 40 or 41 shows. We come on every week. And you can find them on YouTube. You can find them at Maui Neutral Zone. You can see all of our shows in one listing. And we're going to start putting them on television because we want everyone to know about KAKU. They want to know about what we're doing here. And we are so thankful for the people that are our sponsors. We are not the television station. Even though KAKU is here in the facility of Akaku Maui Community Media, our TV, we're separately chartered where we have to raise money to keep this station going on. So thank you, sponsors. Brian Murphy's here with me. Brian, I think of you as an expert. I think of you as somebody who, when the first time I met you, you spoke so well about it, and there you are, to go out and set up your own dispensary like that, you knew what you're doing. And it's really odd that you went through this whole thing, went to jail, all the kinds of stuff.
Well, it just really shows the hypocrisy of the way they do everything. As in, currently, you see all these senators and everybody about banging the drum about how beneficial this product is. But yet, what about all the people that you've ruined their lives?
Oh, yeah.
Put burdens on them like me. Like, is that not part of this same conversation? No, it's not, because they don't really care about anybody but themselves, and now they've found a way to make money on it. The CBD one is really interesting as things go. Currently, CBD is a registered federal drug. People may not want to believe that, but that is a fact. There's no way of getting around that. CBD is a drug. Now, let's look at the FDA. Any drug introduced to any product has to have FDA approval. And what's that about is, how it interacts with this, what's mixed in there, and things of this nature. And it's an important factor, I feel, is the FDA on keeping us safe from ourselves, I guess. But the reality of the situation is, right now we have all the health food stores selling all these erroneous, bogus hemp CBD products, which are all technically illegal in the state of Hawaii. No law has been changed in the state of Hawaii. When you look at the definition of marijuana, all salts and derivatives, are illegal. Why are they allowed to do this? Why? Because they let them get away with. No law has been changed. Technically, the police should be raiding every one of these stores like they did my store. They should be arresting every one of these people like they arrested me and charging them with the same charges. But why don't they?
Why don't they?
Well, because we got all kinds of senators and county councilmen who are now buy a piece of the pie. With them having that, they can look the other way but it's so good, it's so good. Well, hey, you wouldn't let me use that as my defense. Why are you using it now for you to be able to flaunt the law and not
That's
for me?
That's a horrible thing.
Well, no.
Have they been stripping the jails of medical marijuana, or not medical, marijuana users and all that? Or have they been
not
doing
here in
any
Hawaii.
kind of...
Hawaii's done nothing. Some of the states have gotten along pretty good. California's actually cleared up everybody's past records dealing with marijuana. I think Maine or one of those states also just introduced a bill where, no, you cannot on one breath say that all these people are evil because they're doing exactly what you're doing now. But here in Hawaii, we live in a very manipulated society that's pretty much controlled by the powers to be. Now let's just back up to this CBD thing, which I find fascinating, as in, so here we have this federal law, but why don't they enforce it? Is it because we have county council members like Miss Kelly or senators like Ruderman and investments in it? And Roz Baker, how much investment does she have in these industries now too? And again, it's all for their personal gain is why it goes forward. But hey, I see a little light at the end of the tunnel. We've been documenting all these. I've sent letters to the governor, sent letters to the mayor. Why do these people get away with this? And they just don't answer you. It's how they deal with it. I get no response when I inquire. Just a specific question. How is it legal for the health food store to sell CBDs over the counter with no FDA approval? No answer. You know why? Because they feel they can make money at it. That's why.
And we would just listen to a commercial where someone was doing yoga and cannabinoid. I forgot what it was.
Right. Well, here
What
in the
is that?
state of Hawaii, we have very restrictive rules. As in, when you consume your cannabis and you have your 329 card, you're only allowed to consume it in the privacy of your home, technically speaking,
So
by
that-
the law. So none of these things are technically legal. One of the big ones I'm waiting for is, so these dispensaries are going to open and all these patients will be able to buy from the mainland. Where are they going to be able to smoke this marijuana? So let's see. In the state of Hawaii, it's totally illegal to ever smoke in any room you rent. You cannot have any hotel or rental room that allows smoking. We have one of the strictest smoking bans in the nation. For tobacco, they've got around that by, we're get them 50 feet or 500 feet from the door.
From the door,
Put
whatever.
them over there and they can just smoke
Yeah.
over there. Funny thing about cannabis is our state legislation states that you're not allowed to consume it in public anywhere. So where are they supposed to go? How are they supposed to consume it? So what's come along now is like the Maui Grow, and they've been doing these little vapor pens, which are totally bogus. That's right, you heard me tell you out there, people, they're totally bogus. One of the best things I like or read lately about those vape cartridges, it's sort of like trying to dry your hands with one of those hand blowers. They never quite get dry. When you try to use one of those vaporizers, you never quite get high. And there's many reasons to that. Like, I noticed Maui Grown really cut back on adding the glyphosate or the glycerin to their vape cartridges. Originally, their cartridges were 60% CBD, CBN, and 40% of what they called secret recipe stuff. They would never answer me what was really in it, but we did send some off and have them tested. We did know what's in them now. I noticed they cut that back. They're not doing that either. And here again, how does the Maui Grown get away with adding any drug to any drug? Now, there's one thing when you have marijuana in its natural form and you pull that oil out in its natural form and then put it in capsules or tinctures. It's a whole nother conversation when you isolate, and currently the Maui Grown is isolating out CBD and re-entering it into what we call isolation to give them higher CBD counts in their oils, which I find is fascinating. How do they get around the FDA? The FDA says you cannot do that, but yet they do it. And again, everything's legal until you get caught. And a lot of these things, slowly they're getting caught on. The vape cartridges that they used to make, they've switched to now. The last time I was there, she was saying it was 90% cannabinoids and 10% organic matter. Well, you know what? I've done CO2 extraction, and there is no organic matter or vegetable material, as she was saying. So where is that coming from? Here again, they're adding stuff to it, which requires FDA approval because they're doing a drug thing. It's one thing, a natural plant in its natural form. It's a whole nother animal when you start separating these things out and remixing them up.
Have you shared this kind of information? You must have shared it with everybody, right? Everybody that could make a difference.
I've been sharing it, but instead I got in a little akamai in my old age. And over the last year and a half, I've just been documenting everything. And basically we're preparing a class action suit for patients against the state of Hawaii is what my ultimate goal is we just want good, healthy products for our people. Again, just so people understand, when you go into these health food stores the other day, I almost lost it. CBD infused water. You know what? CBD is an oil base. It's not water soluble. How the hell are you getting your CBD water? When we had a test, it had 0 CBD in it. But anyway, has the big letters though. So we have this whole scam thing going on right now, and
wow,
I can't emphasize this enough. There's a thing called the placebo effect. 1/3 of all medications don't work on most people, and they get the benefit from the placebo effect. That's how it actually gets them going. So you have all these people throwing all this CBD this, CBD that, and people, oh, I felt better, I feel better. That's just your body doing it. It really wasn't the drug they gave you. And this whole placebo effect has created this crazy industry. Back to cannabis. The endocannabinoid system works because of a full spectrum of different cannabinoids coming at your body at the same time, which creates the balance to go forward and to work. The way they've created this system is what was the downfall of the pharmaceutical system. They're now isolating it. They're pulling it out, saying, well, no, this is better. But immediately upon pulling out, it's less effective and more dangerous. The more you isolate it, the more problems you're creating. And for all the people out there, do not believe your government. Oh, wait a minute. Margarine's better than butter. Oh, wait a minute. Cigarette smoking's good for your health. Oh, wait a minute. There is no global warming. Oh, on and on and on. If you stop and look back, they hardly ever tell you the truth. They tell you what's best for somebody economically. All the way back down to the Rockefeller times, I've seen this as their main flaw. They use fear. They use prejudice, all for somebody's capital gain. That's the welcome to America system as far as I can tell.
Wow.
But I like the whole plant. I've seen amazing health benefits from people doing full body natural hemp products. That's why I'm still here and in it today. And on the hemp part, I think that's probably one of the saddest things right now going on in Hawaii. We had proposed to a group I was working with called Sunstrand out of Kentucky that they wanted the state to produce 15,000 acres of industrial hemp this year. They wanted to do a dual crop where it be for seed, which is for food and oil production and stock for fiberboard and hempcrete, things of this nature. And the whole plan with Sunstrand was they're just a manufacturer of products. They don't grow hemp. They wanted to set up the facility for the farmers to bring the hemp to and make their products. And what do we have? We have all these little 10-acre plots of all these greedy little people telling you how much money they're going to make off of CBD. And it just blows my mind away. I mean, this stuff's been around for years. I remember one of my first hemp products I found was hair products for African Americans had cannabis oil in it, hemp oil. It's been in there for years. But yet, if you look at the local, oh, look, we're going to make all this cosmetic this and cosmetic that stuff, like it's some kind of big money in it or something too, but it's the hype part that's the big money, because what are they going to do? Make Maui CBD oil, da-da-da-da-da. And in the end, that's not the way to get CBD. If you're looking for CBD from a medical standpoint, we have specific strains that were designed where they're a higher level of CBD than THC, which basically reduces, if not eliminating, the intoxication aspect, and is quite healthy and beneficial for most people. And as a species, the human being is dealing with a cannabinoid deficiency. When you look at it from a historical standpoint, when them first cavemen and everybody were bumping around, they discovered hemp and hemp seed. That was their first grain crop that they brought with them and moved with them everywhere they went from prehistoric times on. People don't realize gruel. What's gruel? That's what they fed all the poor people in England. That was hemp seed. They didn't want to give them the oats, the oatmeal stuffy. They gave them the gruel, which was the hemp seed stuff. So over these thousands and thousands of years, is why as a species we actually have cannabinoid receptors built in. It's been a main function of us, and I feel part of why we've advanced as a culture also is the ability of the homeostasis that it produces is the balance. If you're running from that tiger that's going to eat you, or if you're eating raw products, that's the balance thing that gets the stress level and works everything out. And as a species, I feel that's why it's built into us, and that's the sad part. If we could take it back to its natural root and just use natural products and not go down the synthetic path that they're always trying to go down, I would think you'd see, as I have seen, major medical improvement in many people's lives.
Well, and that's why you were so committed to do what you did.
And I am today. Yep, someone has to. It's a true evil only exists when good men stand by and do nothing. You see something wrong, stand up. Speak up, and it'll make you feel better too.
Wow. Well, we're going to miss you. I understand you're going to be leaving the island, but I must say you've contributed a lot here, and you've really, besides everything else, besides being a nice guy, your lady Mary, a wonderful lady. You guys are.
Well, we balance each other quite well. I'm at one extreme, she's at the other, and she pulls me in and I pull her out, so don't worry. It balances. But I'm the bad penny. I'll be back. Basically what we're doing now is we're moving over to the Big Island and reestablishing over there. One of my goals is we're going to be creating Hawaii Citizens for Democracy in Action. My plan on the Big Island is just start to register voters. I want everybody to realize only 1/3 of the people in Hawaii vote, and half of them you don't agree with. So it's like 1/6 are controlling our situation here. And when I go around and talk to people, it's the disgust of being involved in such a fixed system is why people don't participate. So my new goal is, once I get over to the Big Island, is to really do a campaign about we the people. I don't care what side of the coin you're on. Let's, as a collective, make a decision, and then we can go forward instead of having these small groups controlling what's going on. And again, only 1/3 of the eligible voters vote, and less than half of that are manipulating, or more than half of that are manipulating the system for their benefit. So there's this whole factor where if we can just get more people online to vote, at least we'll get a feel for what the people really want.
Well, that's a great campaign, and I'm sure that as you're going, you're going to get plenty of recruits that want to be sharing this mission.
Yeah, we've done good in the past on these subjects, and I think that was probably one of the reasons they let me run. I actually had patience with how time was open from 2002 to 2008. And they actually never came to my office. They never raided my office. And I always knew it was because we ran the Democracy in Action. At the time, I was also the largest register of voters in the state. We registered over 5,000 voters here in Maui County in that little campaign.
Yeah.
And I did notice a little stand back from all the politicians, but I, at the time, did not want to put them in an awkward position, so we didn't actually go after anybody individually like maybe we should have, as I reflect, but reflection always sucks because you want to do something different. But as we look forward to the future, this time, no, we're going to be calling out the politicians on what they are doing and how they are reacting in all areas. Back then it was, marijuana, so I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they ended up proving they weren't worth it.
And that we had to make a broader brush stroke because the spillover of all their activity sure gets into so many aspects of our life. And, my thing is that we, the people, have a lot more power. And yes, there's government, but we keep electing people, and we need to be doing things in the private sector that are the right things to do together, and have the government then put laws in effect to make what we're doing easier and better. Why should we be putting them in charge to run these programs when they've shown us they don't know, literally, they don't know what they're doing?
Well, no, that's the part I disagree. They totally know what they're doing.
Oh, you think it's totally manipulated?
Oh, it's all about manipulation.
So what, can't we do things then in the private sector and let them stay at arm's length?
Well,
and sort of have to hold them?
Well, the whole idea I have is to push them back into being a representation of the people they represent.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, for example, I read the paper, and I thought it was the first time I've seen luxury real estate. They were announcing that next to the Maui Prince, that's now going to be condos, a parcel of 50-something acres, I think it was, is going to become 34 multi-million-dollar houses. So let's see, who owns that? Who did the purchase for $20 million? Goodfellow, Steve Goodfellow, and Everett Dowling. Wait a minute. Goodfellow, don't they move earth? Yeah, they're big builders. They do most everything. Okay, so they have money. And then who else is Everett Dowling? He's built schools on time and under budget. He built the things up country. So now, but these are the same people. We need to get other developers, if it's not them. And if I had money, I'd see going at expensive real estate, but how can we get building the things we need to build?
Oh, I already figured out how to get things we need built. And basically, powers to be would not like me being up in charge up there. First of all, I would create a residency requirement for the state of Hawaii, that after you lived here 5 years, you were an official resident of the state of Hawaii. Okay, boom, you're here and you're living here. Anyone who wants to do this as an investment property, I would tax their property at 50%.
So in other words, really sock
I would
it
bang
to
the
them.
hell out of them, because you're eating up all our resources and destroying all our abilities to enjoy the island. The other day, it was funny, I was down at Kihei and I wanted to go down to a beach. We have a 4-foot right-of-way on the side of the road, so you can pull over and park on the side of the roads, and it's actually in the law that, we have. And if you notice, most of the places, 4 foot back, all of a sudden's the wall and the fence. All along in Kihei, they got trees planted there now. You can't park. They're putting rocks in there saying you can't park.
Yeah, they stop you from being able to stop anywhere.
No, I cannot go to the beach in Kihei anymore where I wanted to go because of these clowns planting trees, what was parking, and yet the county does not. Why doesn't the county stand up for us on just these little things? Why? Because they pay higher taxes? Oh, no, it's each one of the houses we were looking at, too, are all these vacation rental places, too. Now, the other thing is, though, all these businesses flauntly break the law and break our rules at the expense of the people. Why isn't the mayor down there in Kihei making them move the rocks? Why isn't the mayor down there making them dig up the trees? Because of the money. It's always about the money with these clowns, and I would rather see it for the people. And the
But do you think that we can get developers that want to do things that don't make them as much money?
Yes, I think we could teach our people here on island how to be their own developers. I don't know why you have to bring in high-dollar people out of California who basically bring in most of their own crews also. And in the end, wait a minute, Jason.
Yeah.
Don't you think we got enough mansions already? I would put a moratorium on any hotel building. I would put a moratorium on any single-family homes that are just basically estates. And I would put a easy, workable path for anybody who's going to create livable, affordable houses for people who live in Hawaii.
Livable, I get. Affordable is shocking when I hear affordable.
Yeah, well, the shocking part is that the way they set this up, that you get off that plane, you look in the sky, hey, I'm now a resident here, I'm going to buy a place, and you have all the advantages and disadvantages of being a resident at the cost of the people that have been here.
Right.
We don't pay more than $15 an hour for a local guy. Just think how depressing it must be to be a high school kid born and raised in Maui, looking at the window of the school with all this wealth and growth going on, knowing it's totally out of your reach. The way this system is, you're never going to get to that ring. Boom. Because they have as much play as you do here. No, it should be the people that live here. They got to create a residency requirement. If you're really a resident here, one set of rules. If not, no, tax the hell out of them.
And I would think that there's going to be a major wealth adjustment in the people that own these properties that suddenly get new restrictions. So it's going to be sort of like what happened to me in the mortgage business. Big explosion. The greatest laid plans of mice and men, everything adjusted. And the people that hang on now, the rates going up. So we have to do something, even though it's not going to be the prettiest.
No, it's a little hard, but right now on Maui, a little bit over 55% of the people presently here aren't from here. They're visiting, temporary, and they're taxing the hell out of our resources with no responsibility and they're gone in 2 weeks. They don't care what really happens here. Again, back to the kid in the high school. What are we going to do to create a system where they have ability to live in their own land, to stay on their own land and live in their own community? There's this big economic genocide going on with this open gate policy where money rules, everybody else walks. And what we do is we push them away, and slowly but surely, this will become a tourist island. People will not be able to afford to live here and work here. And I see it coming.
Well, and maybe this is where drones and robots take over. Go to Maui where we can be served by non-human I mean, I can't imagine how people are going to be living here. I mean, right now, I literally am seeing more and more homelessness happening every day to regular, normal people. They're renting, and now their places are getting sold, and they are now out, and they can't find places to live, and more people are living, quote, illegally, being forced off island, forced to live in their car, although it's nutty.
What's really the sad part is the latest craze has been all these investors from the mainland buying properties here in Maui and turning them into Airbnbs and room rentals. You know, the county never wants to discuss that aspect. What is that actual number now of rooms for rent that was just from 4 years ago they weren't there? And what's going on now is before, if I had a 3-bedroom house I could get $1,500 for, I can now get $3,000 for by renting 3 separate bedrooms to 3 separate people at $1,000 apiece. So this is all based on the greed of economics of people with money to make more money at the expense of the people who can't afford to live here. And it's just
I'd like
time
to
push
see.
back.
I wonder if that can be somehow more open conversation. And
well, it's a touchy conversation. I open it up quite a bit. I usually get great response from people that live here and been here. It's the new people give me the stink eye and, we should have the freedom of doing what we want, just like you should have the freedom of doing what you want. Just because we price you out of it shouldn't be our fault.
You know, we could go on talking forever, and we may, but we are now 2 minutes from the end of the show. Isn't that amazing? 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jason.
Thank you, Brian. Brian Murphy, if I were going to give you 3 minutes or a couple of minutes to talk about, what subject do you want to be sure our audience really would understand? What's important that you feel we need to deliver?
The reality of the situation is, as I said earlier about margarine's better than butter, cigarettes are safe, there is no global warming, do not, I repeat, do not believe government. Especially right now with this whole little CBD craze, all these people with their little vapor cigarettes where you see the big puffs of the glycerin smoke, and that's going to be, since they didn't write a law, it's okay. What are we going to be saying 10 years from now about all these people with popcorn lung and da-da-da-da-da because they let that slide? Again, it's time we push back and let facts and truth prevail.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Well, it has been a pleasure having you here on the show. Brian Murphy, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, you want them to get through us, or is there a way you can easily...
I'm a Facebook guy, easy to find on Facebook. And as you're seeing on Facebook, I stay active on quite a few local topics. And again,
Yes.
I like to see more people participate in their community.
Well, I have little to say that you haven't said. You're very outspoken, corrected me a few times, which I need. And I like hearing that you come prepared, armed with facts. And the fact is, I am no different than so many out there who really don't know and don't track it as carefully as I could and should. So thank you for being a champion and coming on here and being brave and letting people know they got to look a little harder. Me too.
Well, I look forward to coming back when we can talk about specific topics and a specific top open only. Today's been a very broad brush all over the conversation type thing, but there are key issues that need to be specifically dealt with, and I look forward to coming back and talking to you about them.
Well, I'd love to have you, and we'll get this station where I can have you on the Big Island and do it from a distance. That's coming soon. Thank you all for joining us here today. I'm Jason Schwartz with Brian Murphy. You can look at MauiNeutralZone.com by tonight probably and listen to this show. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Same time, same station.
I just had to do that.
Oh, you did it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Aloha. The Neutral Zone, with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to thank Maui Arts and Music Association, Tree Makers